How did old Tony Romo go from this?
Killing it usually means a motion and a run out wide to the right.
Here's the handoff into the end zone.
To this.
I think it was a little,
What a Tony Romo entered the broadcast booth in September of 2017. He was hailed as a phenom, as a color analyst alongside Jim Nantz. He was predicting plays before they happened.
Jim, I got $5. This is a run to the left. I got to pay now as it's Henry.
Heads up for the fade inside to 16.
Here's the pass to the end zone, and it is 16.
Injecting humor into the broadcast.
I know he was open. I know it. I'm just Tom. I'm just telling you. Can they play with 12? Nope, it's 11. You're sure? Yes. Nope, can't play with 12. We're still got that same rule.
He was curing uncurable diseases, and he was awarded a massive contract by his network. Now, he's one of the more reviled figures in sports. How does that happen? And how much longer is CBS going to keep him in their number one slot? Or in the booth at all? Jim.
No.
Touch the forearm, maybe?
I don't know there.
I don't know, Jim. We're gonna investigate the shocking rise and fall of Tony Romo, not the quarterback, but the TV personality. And this is tough because I personally prefer the current version of Tony Romo, where he's a little bit wrong, where there's at least 4 weird grunts and sound effects per broadcast. I like that. I want more of this if I'm being very honest.
Never touched him. That's a catch.
No. Instead of doink, it goes boom, bing. There. Oh, that looks really close. Take your helmet off. Give it to me. Give it to me. There you go. Thank you.
I'm also Brandon Perna. You're watching That's Good Sports, and we're going balls deep into the mouth of Tony Romo. We've hit a wall in terms of adding new subscribers. It happens, but it's starting to scare the shit out of me. Are you part of the problem? Are you part of the problem? Today's episode is sponsored by SeatGeek, and my code, That's Good 10, which will get you 10% off, hence the 10 on your next ticket purchase at SeatGeek. Now, last month I used SeatGeek to go to a Nuggets game, a rare outing during football season. And as good as the Avalanche are playing, I might have to go see one of their games as well. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the #1 rated ticketing app. If you're looking to go to an NFL game this season, save yourself 10% and use my code at SeatGeek. There's just a few Broncos games left this year, but you should start eyeing the playoff tickets as soon as they become available. There's over 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek. My wife Jess and I have been thinking about taking our daughter to the Nutcracker or Frozen the Musical, and I'll certainly be using SeatGeek to get those tickets when we go watch Anna and Elsa live. Let it go, let it go. If you go to any game or concert or show, just use my code That's Good 10 to get 10% off at SeatGeek. And you can use my link below to download the app, and the code will automatically be applied at checkout for later. Each ticket on SeatGeek is rated on a scale from 1 to 10, so you know if it's a good deal. Every ticket's also backed by their buyer guarantee. Let's flash back to the 2017 season. The Dallas Cowboys had just won 13 games under rookie 4th-round quarterback Dak Prescott and their other stud rookie Ezekiel Elliott. Tony Romo was 36 years young, 2 years removed from one of his best seasons as a Cowboy, but wearing down from a collarbone injury and a fractured vertebrae in his back. If you can even call those injuries. The Cowboys were ready to move on, and it looked like Romo was going to finish his career somewhere else. Maybe Denver, maybe the Texans, or perhaps a secret third option. Meanwhile, CBS was looking to shake up their lead broadcast booth. Jim Nantz had been their #1 play-by-play announcer since 2004, and Phil Simms had been a lead analyst for NBC and later CBS for 12 seasons. Bizarrely, he also announced weightlifting, at the 1996 Summer Olympics and was briefly an NBA sideline reporter for NBC. More on that never.
To help me demonstrate some of these exercises, I've invited a few of my friends along. Okay, now we're going to do some aerobics. And being the quarterback, I think I'll just
Pump it inside to make him come.
Phil Simms also once farted on the venerable Jim Nantz during a game.
Yeah, and then gotta remember the win. We've talked about that, and I think it's warmed up though, Jim, just to talk about the atmosphere of the game. What do you think?
And perhaps that explains why the network decided to make a change in their top booth.
Pump it inside to make him come.
I don't think football fans were big on Simms either. No, actually, I know they weren't.
I always find it interesting. What are you? Whoa. I just got hit by a snowball, and I see the guy that threw it.
Enter Tony Romo, who announced his retirement from the NFL in April of 2017, a bit of a surprise, but not a complete shock given his recent injuries, if you can call them those. He also strangely got to be a Dallas Maverick for one day, suited up on the sideline, but sadly never played any minutes. But that didn't stop Nico Harrison from trying to trade him. Romo was almost immediately snatched up by CBS, which was not a huge stretch of the imagination, but there was a little controversy that he immediately took over for Simms as the top color guy next to Nantz over veteran broadcasters like Dan Fouts, Trent Green, or Rich Gannon. And that's not shocking today because we've seen Tom Brady get that gig with absolutely no experience. But at the time, guys like Troy Aikman, Chris Collinsworth, and John Gruden had either gotten reps in lower broadcasting tiers or had co-color commentators next to them in the booth when they started. That was not the case for Tony Romo. Some of them, like Gruden, were not built for a three-man booth.
Before you start spitting out all these profound statements,
a lot of guys
you better see who's available, because if RG3 is what I think he is, and Andrew Luck's guy, okay, great.
Around him.
That's why there's 31 flavors of ice cream.
Of course, not everyone was thrilled about the fanfare that Romo was getting post-retirement and during his recruiting process.
I'm going to call out my own network here, ESPN, Fox, and NBC, and CBS, and ESPN, everybody, and their grandmother wants Tony Romo, Mr. 2 playoff victory Tony Romo.
Let me call out my own network here. Yes, my own network, Thatsgoodsports. The guy who runs this operation is a fucking fraud. Oh, no, I can't do that. You can go back to the mic'd up footage of Tony Romo and tell that he had an infectious personality. He was quick, and that he was going to make a smooth transition into the media whenever he wanted.
The only perception that matters is if you win. Everyone can talk till they're blue in the face, say you can't win a playoff game or you can't do this until you win one. And then what do they say? Well, there's going to be something else.
He had a good sense of humor. He was confident with reporters, and for better or worse, he was incredibly self-aware in a sport where that can be a rare quality.
Feels like we just did this yesterday.
When I listen to Tom Brady, it's like he's got someone in his ear telling him to be self-aware and have a personality. Romo was a natural, and all of the networks wanted Romo. They each met with him at Super Bowl 51 in Atlanta. CBS had to offer something bigger than the other networks, and that meant giving him the biggest chair on the network. Romo got 8 games of rehearsal with Jim Nantz, but he actually did a ton of his preparation calling games of the Madden video game with Jimmy Kimmel and Cousin Sal.
I was like, you know what you should do? You should watch Madden and see what the play-by-play is and the color commentary, and then you can see what you want to stay away from or go with. And he's like, that's a great idea. So he puts Madden on. We end up watching him play all afternoon, beating up on these 12-year-olds. And Jimmy's like, do you realize you didn't listen at all to what they're saying? He's like, yeah, I know, I got to beat this guy.
Being a smart quarterback does not necessarily equate to excellence in the booth. We've got a very recent example of that. But back then, you could point to Johnny Unitas, Bart Starr, and Joe Montana, who were all considered broadcasting failures after their incredible NFL careers. Understanding the game at a PhD level and being able to communicate it on a remedial level is a rare skill set. And we were about to see if Romo could do just that without ironing out the kinks on his first real day on the job, week 1 of the 2017 season. And right there, he got an awkward question from Phil Simms out the gate.
Hey, Tony, how you doing? How's that seat feel?
Turns out Romo fit the seat perfectly. He was an instant success, and you could see it right off the bat in that first game between the Raiders and Titans. Yes, that was somehow a number one CBS game in 2017. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Romo rose to the occasion. He was predicting plays before they happened with incredible accuracy. Something I certainly don't remember seeing before, and something I don't think anyone has tried since on a consistent basis.
Here comes a run to the left.
That's up.
It is a run to the left. This ball's going to Lynch. Push back.
Though Hank Stram has been credited with that same ability when he was calling games back on CBS radio alongside Jack Buck in the 70s and 80s.
You know, they run so well to their left, why they would fool themselves and run right in a critical situation. Let's see if they do it here and come back to the left side.
There's a big gap, however, between Hank Stram and Tony Romo, who was dubbed Romo Stradamus.
Dick LeBeau's going to come after him, and they knew they was coming after him. Great play call.
He made salient points in the booth that year that weren't just football truisms, like when he pointed out why the Raiders deferred to start the game because they knew they'd get limited crowd noise in Denver to start the second half.
The crowd noise won't be as loud on this drive because everyone's out to the bathroom. That's why you defer to start the game.
Maybe it wasn't revolutionary, but it was stuff that fans probably never really thought about because the majority of color commentators just talk about establishing the run and converting in the red zone, all a bunch of lazy Captain Obvious bullshit we had heard a million times before.
You could really see that both teams really do want it tonight. 100%. They're both giving 110% out there, 100%. That's 100%, 110%.
Romo was a breath of fresh air in the booth. He was sharp, energetic, and he brought some levity to big moments. It was certainly better than Phil Simms having a stroke trying to explain why the Colts shouldn't challenge a play.
You could win the challenge, but you'll lose it because it has to be a first down that you're going for. So they could challenge and get us, make him come a different spot, Jim, but they still would lose a timeout and a challenge.
Simms always seemed like he had a personal vendetta against the English language.
So we got a coach. Yeah, okay, I'm just kidding. We've heard that phrase. Everybody's heard that one on TV. But managing the game, just something that's overlooked.
There were people on the internet turning Simms' fragmented thoughts into works of beautiful poetry. Meanwhile, Romo was calling a cat running onto the field better than Phil Simms could break down a real football play.
This is like how you ran in high school. Look at that. Perfect form. Does he get both feet in right here at the end, Jim?
Well, he turns it upfield.
I literally got that clip from a video the NFL posted titled Tony Romo's best calls from the 2017 NFL season. I think that just about sums up how much of a sensation he was in the booth right away. Lord knows we weren't getting highlight reels of Solomon Wilcott or Dan Deerdorf. Dan did have his moments, though.
We can both name quarterbacks who can throw it through a brick wall, but nowhere near the receiver. Yeah, some of those guys think like a brick wall, too.
It felt like the Romo effect trickled down to booths all across America. Calling a game was no longer a matter of life or death. Broadcasters were allowed to joke around and have a little fun announcing a game for children. The Ringer's Brian Curtis wrote in 2024 that today I hear Romo's voice everywhere. I hear it in Fox's Greg Olson. 2 years ago when Mark Sanchez called the game in London, I swore that a midnight ceremony had been performed to allow Romo to inhabit Sanchez's body. Wait, is Tony Romo the real reason Mark Sanchez got stabbed? Did Romo feel that too? Is that why he's struggling? Post-Tony Romo, even established announcers like Chris Collinsworth seemed to smile more, emote more, and I think also allow new announcers like J.J. Watt to hit the ground running. The only one who didn't get the memo seems to be Drew Brees.
Don't read all those social media comments after.
If you've noticed that Joe Buck and Troy Aikman have lightened up a bit since the days of their cardboard stiff calls for Fox in the 2000s, I believe you can attribute at least some of that to Romo's popularity.
It's December! Can you believe it? Already December!
That and Joe Buck becoming further and further removed from his Pat Summerall impression.
Mitchell.
And his fake outrage over Randy Moss mooning the stands at Lambeau Field.
That is a disgusting act by Randy Moss, and it's unfortunate that we had that on our air live. That is disgusting by Randy Moss.
There's really no denying that Romo was, whatever you think about him now, the most influential announcer since the great John Madden. Although I have yet to see Romo sneak a penis onto national television. But I hope he tries. John Madden will always be in a league of his own in terms of broadcasters. I think the difference, though, is Madden always felt like a larger-than-life personality. A one-of-a-kind that nobody dared try and mimic.
This is a mother bucket, and since the last game, they had a baby bucket.
There's the daddies coming in, and here's the mommies over here. And at the end of the day, the kids always get to play.
Romo had more of an everyman type personality that shifted how the pros in the booth could talk about the game.
Tony Romo is the kind of guy that he's getting plays from the three-eyed raven.
I think in a way, too, Romo's intelligence took us all a little by surprise. This is a guy we knew off the field from tabloids to some extent. His relationship with pop star Jessica Simpson, his ill-fated decision to go to Cabo on the Cowboys bye week before losing to the Giants in the 2007 divisional round, and of course the legendary defense from Terrell Owens.
It's my team. It's my quarterback.
He was your quarterback, but it felt like we were getting unfettered access to a QB's brain just a few months removed from the field itself. It felt like we were getting secrets of the game that were previously kept and hidden from us. It was new and exciting. Romo was a star. The New Yorker called him a genius at football commentary. And he might have peaked in the 2018 AFC Championship game when he correctly predicted 13 plays run by the New England Patriots in their overtime victory at Kansas City. 2 weeks later, Romo called his first Super Bowl. 2 years after that, CBS awarded him a 10-year contract worth $17 million per season, making him the highest-paid NFL analyst in NFL history. ESPN actually tried to poach him for Monday Night Football, but eventually had to settle for the elder Cowboys quarterback Troy Aikman alongside his partner Joseph Buck.
I'd like to say fuck you to that kid right now.
And of course, most importantly, he took over for John Gruden as the Corona hotline operator. I thought he learned his lesson about hanging out by beaches in Mexico, but I guess not, Tony. I guess not. Either way, he was at the top of his game.
Wow, girls like me.
This team is DTF, Jim.
In sports, and especially in sports media, we love to raise people up. Then we tear them down, and Tony Romo, the most beloved man in the industry, started to feel the heat. Suddenly, the well of knowledge that Romo drew from to predict plays kind of started to dry up. His fastball essentially started to slow down. Maybe he was becoming too far removed from his playing days to see a play coming before it happened. Or maybe he just didn't really care anymore to put in the time and work to study those offenses like he had before receiving his massive contract. People have theorized that Romo was told to stop predicting plays by CBS, and Romo himself acknowledged back in 2020 that his biggest asset wasn't necessarily a planned strategy, but something that happened naturally. I don't think CBS ever told Romo to stop, and I don't believe the NFL had an issue with him predicting plays either. Why would they?
That's sports. It just makes it fun for people to read.
It was the first time an announcer was drawing publicity for simply being great at his job. I'm not sure if it ever took away from the surprise of the game as it unfolded. Personally, I think it added to the experience. What I do think happened was that Romo got rusty. Now, several years removed from an actual quarterback quarterback's room, and his coordinators and coaches he played against himself departed the league, he couldn't fall back on previous knowledge gleaned during his playing career. And trying to pick up tendencies, formations, and anything else by yourself is probably really hard. Brian Curtis also wrote for The Ringer that other announcers thought they could do the same thing as Romo, predicting plays, but they didn't think they were allowed to do it. Romo can still occasionally dip into his bag of tricks, as he exhibited in the Chiefs-Cowboys Thanksgiving game.
Nobody's helping over the top over here. Comes the blitz. Yeah, you saw it, Tony. There's Pickens.
And again in the Bills-Steelers game a few days later, calling out a Ty Johnson alert on 4th and 1.
Ty Johnson's here, though. Alert.
Possible. It goes to Johnson. Johnson.
But these moments are fewer and further between, and I don't think they happen at the right time, the same significant times in broadcasts. Before the 2022 season, Romo started to take a backseat as the resident broadcast darling to the new kid on the block, Greg Olsen. And of course, we all know how Fox fucked that one up, don't we?
I don't hear you. You're sitting on something. You sat on the cough button.
I'm so excited. Meanwhile, Andrew Merchant reported that CBS staged an intervention with Romo regarding his performance and that things did not get better. So what is the problem with Tony Romo these days? How did the broadcast phenom become everyone's least favorite invite to Thanksgiving dinner? I think the public perception of Tony Romo, the broadcaster, really started to shift on the game's biggest stage. Super Bowl 58, the third Super Bowl in the Romo-Nantz era, and Romo did not miss a chance to sing some of the bumper music as the game went to commercial.
Take it to the commercial there, Mr. Romo.
I didn't like any of that.
Again, I love that type of shit from my announcer, but not everyone did.
He comes in, he was great his first couple of years, starts to stink a little bit.
Oh my gosh, someone's got to put deodorant on.
It was the first time the duo was actually gifted a very good Super Bowl to call, and as the game went into the second ever overtime period in Super Bowl history, Romo did a really good job explaining the 49ers' decision to take the ball first under the new OT rules, something that hadn't previously been explored.
The football first.
It's a very tough one because you always want to be like, well, I want to be able to go for it on 4th down and know what it is, right? If I have to score, get a field goal, that's an advantage. However, if my defense is very tired and I just got off the field, I might want to give them a break.
But as the game came down to its final snap, Romo just didn't know when to let the moment stand on its own and shut the fuck up.
Mahomes flings it. It's there! Hardman! Jackpot! Kansas City!
This was the Andy Reid special. This was the Andy Reid special we talked about. He was saving all day.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Steve Gardner wrote for USA Today that Romo failed to give the historic moment time to breathe, immediately jumping into an analysis of the play call, the midseason trade for Hardman and Mahomes' place in history. For over half a decade in the booth, it seemed like Romo's greatest strength was how loose he was. But now, he was getting called out for not zipping his lips because of how loose he was. Since that game, the public has done a 180 on Tony Romo. He's too silly.
That helmet, give it. Hey, take your helmet off. Give it to me.
He makes weird noises. And he dominates every broadcast. Unfortunately, I can't relate to any of that. I'm a professional. I'm the king of jizz. But that was always Romo. He was always a grade A certified goofball that couldn't have been more opposite of his predecessor, Phil Simms. However, when the crystal clear analysis he used to provide started to fade and take a back seat, the other part of Romo's persona has taken its place. It's like when The Simpsons made Ned Flanders a caricature of himself, and he went from a well-rounded character to this.
Now calm down, diddly 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 diddly. They did their best, shoddily iddly iddly diddly. Gotta be nice, hostility diddly biddly diddly. Ah, hell, diddly ding dong crap!
Romo, too, has facilitated his own Flanderization. I think there's more to it, though. I almost feel bad saying this, but I think Jim Nantz has lost a step as a play-by-play man, which unfortunately happens to the best of them. We say the same thing about Al Michaels, to Dick Enberg, to all of the greats. As Nantz gets a little older and maybe a little less cinematic with his iconic voice, the more we notice Romo's outlandishness by contrast. They've always had a bit of a weird dynamic. There were rumors when they started that Nantz fucking hated Romo. The difference in age and broadcasting style seemed like it brought out a different side of Jim Nantz at first, but now they both seem to be declining alongside each other. There's also this. Most of the country has Chiefs fatigue.
Kansas City rings back-to-back Super Bowls. It's Mecole Hardman.
Explain it again with those nuggies.
Chiefs fatigue.
Do a little dance, make a little love.
Taylor Swift now entering her engagement era with Kansas City Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce.
I'm like that.
They play in the AFC. They have been relevant since Romo has been in the booth, and therefore they get a lot of number one CBS games, not to mention playoff games and Super Bowls. Nantz and Romo are the soundtrack to the Chiefs dynasty, the same way Nantz and Sims were to the Patriots, the same way Madden and Summerall were to the 49ers and Cowboys. If you're tired of the Chiefs, you're probably tired of the guys who narrate their success, or lack thereof recently. And maybe it doesn't help that Tony Romo is in awe of every Patrick Mahomes play and everything Mahomes does on the field.
Mahomes throwing it in the dirt on purpose, so he sees it, and then he's got such great instincts.
Sometimes it does feel like we turn on the TV on Sundays and we all just happen upon Tony Romo having a goon sesh in the booth. Disgusting.
Disgusting! Make him come.
We just came off a stretch where Nantz and Romo called 4 straight Kansas City Chiefs games in big windows for everyone to watch, and that certainly feels a little egregious for a team that's just 6-6. It is overkill, and the fans are tired of it. And I think regardless of what broadcaster you are, and that's a difficult situation to be in. And I also think Romo has done the impossible. And he is now more known for glazing Mahomes than even one Chris Collinsworth.
And then he's going to turn around and he's going to get whacked again. I mean, he's just a fighter. He really is. He's just a fighter.
Where you lose the audience is when Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb connect on a deep pass, a big play, and you use that moment as an opportunity to compare Dak Prescott to Patrick Mahomes.
He goes, I'm going deep, and the adjustment that we've seen Patrick Mahomes, Kelce, that team makes so many years. The Cowboys just did it to the Chiefs.
That's a moment that doesn't need a Mahomes-Kelce comp. And Tony went there. Now, I mentioned that in sports media, audiences love to tear people down as soon as they have built them up. It's my greatest fear. Romo is the perfect case of that. Sure, he's devolved in some ways. He's been Flanderized, but he's also a victim of the social media era in ways that his predecessors were not. Phil Simms was not getting clipped to death on Twitter every week, which is a shame because I think I could have made a pretty good living off of Simms alone.
Man, that is the dumbest damn thing I've ever heard.
Make him come.
We weren't all rushing to our phones to complain about Howard Cosell in the 70s. Instead, people in Denver thought Cosell had such an anti-Broncos bias that on Monday nights during halftime when Cosell's Monday Night Football highlight show came on, the winner of the nightly raffle got the right to throw a brick through an old black and white TV with Cosell's face showered upon the screen. People have always complained and hated announcers. It's not a novel thing for Tony Romo, but he is under a much, much larger microscope with the internet. I remember near the end of the John Madden era when he would get made fun of for being Captain Obvious.
Now they're inside now, but inside isn't in the middle or on top. That's underneath, I think, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
See, they're down in here, in this group here, I think.
I remember him getting ripped to shreds for saying the Patriots should take a knee and send Super Bowl 36 into overtime, minutes before Adam Vinatieri nailed the game-winning field goal in regulation.
I think that the Patriots, with this field position, you have to just run the clock out. You have to play for overtime now. I don't think you want to force anything here. We don't want to do anything stupid.
Now, 17 years removed from his final game, Madden remains eternally beloved. Well, not the video game, but the person, to be clear. Sports fans will always shit on announcers. It's in our DNA. Baseball fans hated Tim McCarver.
You are a real man, Dion, I'll say that.
And guess what? They hate his replacement, John Smoltz.
They don't know what they're talking about.
There were plenty of people that didn't like Bill Walton, who didn't like Mark Jackson when he was on the mic for the NBA Finals. We spend so many hours with these personalities and these voices in our living rooms, we're bound to get tired of them the same way we do our own family members. If only the mute button existed for our weird uncles. After long enough hearing the same voice, familiarity tends to breed contempt. All that said, it feels like we've reached critical mass for Romo hate this season.
5 minutes before critical mass.
Critical what? We're getting tweets about his commentary every time he's on TV, think pieces about it afterwards, and guess what? He's still on the books for CBS until 2030. Awful announcing called his contract the worst decision in sports media. In a lot of ways, it's hard to believe that we live in a world where Mark Sanchez got himself stabbed and arrested 2 nights before he was set to call a Colts game, and Tony Romo still remains the most hated color commentator in the NFL. So yes, Romo has increased his sound effects during games.
Never touched him. That's a catch.
And not intentional sound effects like the ones Madden would do.
Boom! You know, like they do in wrestling. Boom!
When he does accurately predict plays, they're not in big moments, maybe a bit more nuanced, and honestly, people just expect it. Those predictions have become harder to hit as the NFL has evolved significantly since Romo left. All of that adds up to a collective opinion about him. CBS has to now decide whether they want to weather the noise or make a change. They've done it before, obviously, when they sent Phil Simms to the studio when he had multiple years left on his contract with the network. It wasn't as big as Romo's, but precedent is there for the network. I mean, what a full circle moment that would be. The man who replaced Simms, rising, falling, and ultimately suffering the same fate as the man whose throne he conquered. So what will happen to Tony Romo? I don't know, GM. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Please remember to subscribe to this channel. It's how we continue to succeed and move forward. And if I get enough subscribers, you too can shit on me one day like I'm Tony Romo.
This team is DTF, Jim.
Pump it inside to make him come.